Hey there, welcome to Dynamics. Be sure to like and subscribe as we get ready for an awesome adventure into the prehistoric world and another exciting episode of What's That Dinosaur? Today we're going to meet the super cool dinosaur known as the Triceratops. This dinosaur is like the tank of the dinosaur world. So let's jump right in and discover what the name Triceratops really means. In Latin, Triceratops translates to three-horned face, and trust me, this name fits perfectly because the most noticeable feature of the Triceratops is its three awesome horns. To understand this amazing dinosaur, we're going to have to hop into our time machine and travel back to the time of the dinosaurs. Are you ready for this epic adventure? Let's go explore the courageous world of the Triceratops. Now close your eyes and imagine a world about 68 million years ago, during the late Cretaceous period. This is when the Triceratops, one of the most famous plant-eating dinosaurs, roamed the earth. Picture herds of these incredible creatures wandering around. It must have been an incredible sight. Now let's think about what a tank transformed into a dinosaur would look like. Well, that's where the Triceratops comes in. This dinosaur was a huge herbivore, which means it loved to munch on green grass and delicious bushes. It was about 10 feet tall, just as tall as a fully grown African elephant. But wait, there's more. This fantastic creature stretched a massive 30 feet from its nose to the tip of its tail. That's almost longer than 3 cars parked in a row. Can you imagine how impressive that must have been? Here's the real kicker. A Triceratops weighed as much as 16,000 pounds, but despite its size, it could charge at its enemies at speeds of about 20 miles per hour. That's one speedy tank. Let's explore one of the most amazing features of the Triceratops, its 3 horns. These horns were truly impressive and played a significant role in the dinosaur's life. The Triceratops had 2 long horns above its eyes, also called the brow horns, which measured around 3.5 feet in length. It also had a third horn on its nose, which was about a foot long. These horns had various uses throughout the Triceratops' lifetime. One of the main purposes of these horns was for fighting and showing dominance. During the changing of seasons, Triceratops would engage in battles with each other to prove who was the boss. They would use their horns to clash and compete for territory and the females. It must have been quite a sight to see these mighty dinosaurs battling it out. But the horns weren't just for fighting. Triceratops also used them for particular tasks. They could use these horns to move objects like large rocks or even push down whole trees to reach the tasty leaves at the top. Another critical use of the horns was defense against natural predators. One of the Triceratops' greatest foes was the Tyrannosaurus rex. The T-Rex was one of the few dinosaurs that stood a chance against the Triceratops, but even then, it wasn't easy. Now let's talk about another fascinating feature of the Triceratops, its head crest. At the top of its head, the Triceratops had a large semicircle structure called a crest. This crest served as an important purpose. It helped protect the dinosaur's vulnerable neck from potential attacks by predators. It acted like a shield, adding an extra layer of defense to this mighty creature. The Triceratops had an incredible combination of features that made it unique and well equipped for its environment. With its powerful horns and protective crest, this dinosaur was truly a force to be reckoned with. It's amazing to think of the adaptations and strategies these ancient creatures developed to survive in their prehistoric world. Now let's take a closer look at how the mighty Triceratops lived its life. It all begins right from the start, when the Triceratops was just a tiny egg nestled in a cozy little nest. These eggs took about 3 to 6 months to hatch. Since Triceratops traveled in herds, they likely formed a nesting ground, where all the nests would be kept close together, increasing their chances of survival. The leader of the herd, usually the largest and strongest male Triceratops, would have been the main protector of the eggs. However, if there ever was a need for extra protection, the herd would create a defensive circle around all the nests, like a shield of spikes, to keep predators, big or small, away from the precious eggs. After about 6 months, the eggs would finally hatch and a new generation of Triceratops would begin their journey of survival. During their infancy, these young dinosaurs would remain in their nests and rely on their mothers to gather food and feed them, similar to how mother birds feed their young. As several months passed, these infants grew bigger and stronger, and it was time for them to venture out of the nest. This marked the beginning of what paleontologists call the Great Migration. During this migration, all dinosaurs, whether big or small, would move from north to south or vice versa, depending on the changing of seasons. This migration allowed them to find more food and seek warmer weather, ensuring their survival in a constantly changing world. The Triceratops, along with other dinosaurs, embarked on this remarkable journey, adapting to the challenges that came their way. Their ability to migrate and find better resources played a crucial role in their survival. It's fascinating to imagine these amazing creatures traveling together, witnessing the wonders of nature as they search for food in a favorable climate. The life of a Triceratops was full of adventure and resilience, from protecting their eggs to navigating the Great Migration. These dinosaurs truly had unique strategies for survival, showcasing their incredible abilities to adapt and thrive in a world with prehistoric wonders. However, this migration was not an easy journey and posed risks for every dinosaur involved. The large groups of migrating herbivores made them a tempting meal for carnivorous predators, who were also on the move. As they traveled, these carnivores would try and separate the herd, targeting smaller and weaker dinosaurs, leaving them vulnerable and unable to defend themselves. Despite these dangers, however, most Triceratops would survive thanks to their resilience and defensive nature. Once the Great Migration came to an end, the Triceratops would establish a new home in the land they had discovered. They would remain in this new habitat for several months until the arrival of the spring season, which marked a significant event in the herd's history, the time known as the Time of Challenge, where newly mature Triceratops had the opportunity to challenge the current leader of the herd. The male Triceratops would engage in a fierce battle, locking horns and ramming their skulls together, using every ounce of their strength to push back the current leader. During this challenging time, all but one would fail. Only one Triceratops would overpower the older leader, forcing him into submission and ultimately banishing him from the herd. The victorious Triceratops would become the new leader, gaining the attention of the females and taking charge of the herd. With this challenge completing, the nesting season would begin anew. Then after a few more months, just like before, as the winter season approached, the Triceratops would embark on the Great Migration once again. During this time, led by the new leader, this cycle of migration, challenging, and nesting would continue throughout the Triceratops' lives, shaping their behaviors and ensuring the survival of the species. The life of a Triceratops was filled with constant challenges and adaptations, from surviving the dangers of migration to competing for leadership. These dinosaurs displayed remarkable strength and determination. Their ability to navigate these cycles and establish strong herds allowed them to thrive in a world teeming with prehistoric wonders. Now that we've learned about the incredible journey of the Triceratops, it's time to hop back into our time machine and return to the present day. In the present, the Triceratops only exists as a fossil, but don't be fooled by those bones, because remember, every fossil tells a story.